So thanks for listening and watching. I'm Jessica Payne. Welcome to Jessica Payne Live. I am here apparently trying to reconnect with Jetahn Johnson, who is a wonderful Reiki master. Give us 2 seconds to do that. So thanks for tuning in live. Thanks for coming back on the replay. You might be catching me over on YouTube. You might be listening to me on the podcast. So thank you as always for that. This is what Going Live is all about. Teresa saying, boom, much better, wicked. I'm going to go ahead and invite our beautiful friend Jetahn back. Hey, if you take my course, Live Show Mastery, you know, you just have to roll with it. Anything can happen on live. Teresa, thanks for coming back. You're such a dedicated fan of the show. Give me 2 seconds. I'll get Jetahn back. Teresa, right now we're talking about self-doubt and how to overcome it. Question to you. Do you experience self-doubt? What does that feel like? What are some signs that come up for you when you experience self-doubt? I'm actually really curious. For me, self-doubt is all about when I feel like there's a block, when I feel like there are certain things I should be doing and maybe I'm not doing it. What does it feel like for you? Oh, Lordy, yes. Give us some examples, Teresa. For those of you joining, I'm having Jetahn Johnson with me today. She's just about ready to join. She's a certified Reiki practitioner, life coach. She's going to help us move through some self-doubt. And it's something I think we all can experience. So let me know if that's something that you run into, maybe a brick wall. It's tax day here in the US. So certainly something that I think a lot of people right now are worried, probably financially. Maybe they're running into some roadblocks, stuff like that. So I thought the timing couldn't be more perfect for self-doubt and how we can move through them. All right, so here's Jetahn, beautiful. I love technology. We had some technical glitches, but we are back on. There she is in her beautiful self.
Thank you.
Welcome back. They can hear us loud and clear. I just asked Teresa to give us some examples of self-doubt.
Okay.
And here we go. So Jetahn, for those of you just tuning in, she'd just given us a beautiful quick intro. I'm going to ask her to give it again because you created something beautiful called the Activated Warrior. Now, for those of folks just tuning in, what is the Activated Warrior? The sort of the 3-second soundbite of that, and why did you start it?
Okay, well, I started Activated Warrior really out of my own journey. You know, I worked all kind of jobs. I transitioned from young mother, divorce, 3 children, just doing a job to survive. So I was in survival mode for a while and was just doing like everybody else, a job to pay the bills and make a decent life for my kids and myself. So
right.
fast forward, children get older, you're still in survival mode, but I was enjoying life, you know. And then I transitioned into the kids were getting older, starting to leave, go off to college and that kind of thing. And I said, I want to do something that means something, that I can wake up every morning and say, oh my God, I found my life purpose. I'm doing what I was meant to do, what I love. I want to be able to get up and do something that I can see myself doing for the rest of my life. And that's what I found with the Activated Warrior. So the things that I pulled out of myself, because I knew I was powerful inside. I'd been through so much and overcame so many obstacles that I knew it was there, but I had to make it be alive. And it said, okay, I'm activated. I'm the Activated Warrior. So I was the original Activated Warrior, at least in my own mind. So all the tools and skills and strategies and learning curve that I went through is what the Activated Warrior is all about. So, and I wanted to bring I didn't just want to be quote unquote, I hate titles, life coach. Right. For me, it's like a transformational change. So if I had to put a long title on myself, I would say I'm a transformational life coach.
Beautiful.
And that's the reason for it, because it's not just one phase that we go through, but we transition to different parts in different times in our life. mother, father, we raise our children. Maybe we stay in a marriage. Maybe we're single parents. And then after they leave, we have to find out, okay, well, what do I do for me?
Right. Yeah. It's important it's important to remember we do and we can, and we're allowed to go through these chapters. I'm going to read a couple of comments because we've already got them for you. First off, hello and welcome, my squad, my team. We've got RJ, Dwayne, Teresa. Who else we've got in here? Thanks for jumping over to the other broadcast, and thanks for taking the time, as always, to tune into the show. Before you came on, Jetahn, I had lobbed out a question to Teresa, and it looks like she's commented back, so I definitely want to read it. I'd asked her about self-doubt, and she says, I work from home alone, and it comes naturally to me to pump out content as a former teacher. However, when I put that content out, it sometimes falls flat. This causes me to question if doing what I want to do in the world is worth pursuing. So that's her experience of self-doubt. So it brings me to my next question, and maybe you can share some wisdom with Teresa's is like, why do people come to you, and in which situation are they at when they come to you? Are they experiencing something like Teresa? And what might you say to someone like Teresa who's experienced it? It's a very specific example for her, but it's very real. So what would you say to Teresa here right now experiencing that self-doubt?
Yeah. I would say to Teresa that whatever is coming from a real place in you is something that needs to be expressed, and it's going to touch somebody. Never doubt your spoken experience or your written word, because there's going to be somebody that they needed to hear that right at that moment. And so it's important to go ahead and express your ideas and thoughts. And some people may not respond, but they're still hearing it. You see what I'm saying? We're not all people that want to reach out. We're more of like a sponge. We absorb knowledge, but we don't want to say anything.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But you've made an impact on somebody somewhere. So never be discouraged or persuaded not to give your thoughts or input. That's important. I do it all the time. And it's like, well, I'm going to say it whether you want to hear it or not. I hope it helps somebody. But I know it helped me to share it. And so that's a good thing. When people come to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that is so important that you brought out, and Teresa's saying here, consumption without response is what I get a lot. Yeah, we are interesting animals, isn't it? I experience it when I ask something as simple as a question. I forget that social media is where I live a lot because it's what I do for my job. And sometimes it's as simple as asking people to comment and wondering why they don't comment. Well, sometimes people don't want to broadcast that they don't know, or that they're frustrated with something, or that they even sometimes, even demonstrating that we can be listening, we can be a little doubtful about what that might look like. So I love that you brought that up in terms of people could still be listening, people could still be impacting, they just might not be saying anything. Right. So the flip side of that is, as people that we rely on that feedback, we shouldn't just assume that there's no reception to what we're doing, that there's no impact. It just might not be showing up in those other ways. Teresa, that was a great comment. Consumption without response is what I get a lot.
Yeah,
I experienced that too. Christy says, hello, Jess from sunny Florida. Proud of you. Thanks, Christy. She's awesome. She's one of my fans. I'm a huge fan of hers. Thanks, Christy, for tuning in as always. Oh, Teresa, you sparked it now. She's got another question for you. So how do you work through that to connect and get feedback? That's a really good question. So how do you work through that to connect and get feedback? That's a good question. So when we know, and I don't know if there's a right answer to that right now, but it's just a good question to ask out, because I battle with this too. I can experience self-doubt too when I might get a low response rate to something. Teresa, I could lob in maybe some of my experience. I start to look in other areas for indicators that people are finding what I'm saying of value. Sometimes I might send a private message, or recently you may have noticed I've put in my posts, I've put in my my live show, rather than just asking people to comment, I say, or slip me a private message. And I do this in my course a lot too, because I've even found in my course, my live show mastery course, where people pay to learn, and part of the perk of it is being in a community. Sometimes they don't always want to broadcast their questions. So I remind them, hey, you can send me a private question too, and then I'll get the private questions. So Teresa, to your point, I just give them another modality to reach out to me or feedback. And sometimes it's just offering a private way that I'm like, oh, I got the signal, got the bat signal. They are listening. They just sometimes don't prefer to do so publicly. Is that helpful? Hopefully. Christy's saying, I agree with y'all. I might not say much, but I very much listen. When I do respond, it's normally to help others, but if it has to do with me, I may not respond as much. That's really interesting, Jetahn. Why do you think we choose to respond publicly sometimes, or we keep it in sometimes? I guess that's just the personal experience, right?
Yeah. Well, it's anonymous. I'll respond if I can respond anonymously. You know, you don't want your name there. You know, and I can get that, because sometimes I want to respond, but then, darn it, it says my whole darn name. And I have an unusual name, like and I have an unusual first name. So people notice it and they're like, oh, Jetahn, I wonder if that's so-and-so from, that's her. Look what she's writing, so I can see where sometimes being anonymous is, I'd probably speak a lot more and interact a lot more. So I can see it from that side too. But I like the feedback. I understand the need for that. If people just if I see a lot of likes, then I know, okay, well, they are looking. It did mean something. So getting likes is good. And I like your idea, Jessica, about giving them a different way to reach out to you privately. That's important. Yeah.
I'm finding, it's not just technology. It's kind of like when we go to a meeting or like we go to a seminar, there's always the people that are going to raise their hand, and they're so brave and they ask the question publicly. And then there's kind of the rest of us that are like, great question, and we're taking notes. So it's kind of the same. It's like, I guess we need to remember that it's all based on our comfort level. Let's talk a little bit about, you have this really cool 3-step process in terms of working through self-doubt. You mentioned it to me a few days ago. Can you walk us through that?
Well, first you need to do a little bit of discovery, where you discover what issues, what blocks you may have, what belief systems. We all have beliefs like money's the root of all evil. We heard it from our granddad or grandma, even our parents, but, just on that real quick, money's not the root of all evil. It's people. We have to have money to survive in this economy, this world. So it's not money that's evil, but if we have that mentality, maybe I shouldn't be wanting money because, that's evil is associated with money. You see what I mean? So they make that connection, and it blocks their blessings for financial financial abundance, because they have that belief system that money's not good. It's bad money. Bad money. Put up the so you're blocking that good energy of financial abundance
or other
that
things.
Belief system. It's true.
Yeah, like let's say you were raised in a family where maybe you learned it from your parents or your grandparents or your siblings, like, don't outshine your siblings. Fame, don't seek fame. Don't, just know your place. And so there might be a stigma or, so for me, the biggest thing I'm working on right now is my bigness, embracing my bigness. I'm literally 6 foot tall, but it's more of my bigness. And so just like money, there could be something that you were raised with: money, visibility, bigness. Maybe you're really good looking. And so you've always gotten attention. Maybe you're really smart or gifted. And it seems like sometimes, depending on how we were raised, we attach, just like the money thing, we attach a certain negativity to something. And so if I'm hearing what you're saying, when we're experiencing self-doubt for whatever reason, we're kind of halted. We're halted. It sounds like the first phase we need to go to is discovery. Just kind of, am I paraphrasing when I'm correctly when I'm saying kind of trying to understand what we're looking at?
Yeah, it's being able to look at the issues that you have, what's been holding you back. If you can put a name to it instead of just a feeling, but put a name to it. I feel doubt. I'm unsure. I'm unhappy. I'm conflicted. You know, whatever labels or names that you need to put to it, that's the discovery process. And then once you have all of those things in discovery, then you work on the resolution to it. So you want to resolve those issues. And it may seem like it's an ongoing thing where you just have too many things to cover. But once you acknowledge something and speak it, you're able to really open yourself up to dissolve it.
Right.
Because it's not in the dark anymore. Yeah, it's not in the dark anymore. It's not an unknown entity out there that's affecting your life. You've put a name to it. So you work on resolving it, clearing it. And that's part of what the activated warrior is using not only the skills and strategies, but also using Reiki energy to unblock those areas where you have closed off the energy that flows through you. So if you don't have your mind clear and your issues resolved, that energy can't flow properly through your whole body. It's going to flow because just like a wire, if the wire is frayed a little bit, the energy current's still going to go through there. But you're not getting the full impact of all the energy because that wire is frayed. So the fraying of the wire reference has to do with your blocks, your doubts, you know, whatever your issues. Yeah. So once we resolve those and kind of mend that wire so that the connection of the energy is flowing fully and freely through the body, then we're able to move on to your action plan. You know, we want to connect to that inner warrior, activate it, and connect with it, because we're all one, more than just one thing. We have to put that mind and action together. We're not and just your action. Yeah.
And your action plan, it's sort of these three words or phrases you were telling me about: acknowledgement, acceptance, and move on. Can you walk us through that? Because I think, and I know a little personally about some of my tribe here. A lot of them are spiritual fish. They're very in tune. We've had conversations about energy. So, but from a practical standpoint, sometimes I'm just sitting here going, I know my energy's blocked, and I meditate every day. But sometimes I'm like, what's something I could do right now? What's a 3-step process I could just go forward? And I love when you introduced me to yours, acknowledgement, acceptance, and move on, because it's so transactional. It's simple for me to understand. Can you walk us through? Because I think for everyone sitting in that moment, something as simple as that can help us push through that negative thought, and it literally helps us move forward so that we don't get in that sort of thought spiral or get depressed or whatever. Can you walk us a little bit through that 3-step process?
Okay, well, acknowledge what's going on in the moment. Meaning I'm really feeling depressed. But you need to say to yourself, and I always talk about saying to yourself, because the spoken thought is so powerful. Sometimes when we hold things in, and it's okay when we say things like, I speak to myself. What's wrong with speaking to yourself?
I do it all the time. Yeah, all the time. You should see me in the kitchen. Like dialogue. I read a study once that they said, intelligent people speak to themselves. So I'm just going to hang my hat on that.
That's good. That's good. And no one's there to judge you.
No.
You're not. That's what I mean. You acknowledge your thoughts because it's a spoken thought, and there's no judgment there. You love yourself. You love everything about you. You speak your thoughts. So that's the part of acknowledging. Whatever that feeling is, accept it. I feel okay. I've acknowledged it. And yeah, I feel like crap right now. I'm depressed. And you decide to figure out what's causing the depression. Am I worried about this part of my business stuff? Am I not doing enough? Am I worried about, you keep yourself in the present, but you acknowledge it, the acceptance part of it. I know why I'm depressed. I just need to, work through some things. but you're specifying what you need to accept. I'm depressed because of those reasons.
You
and
give
then
it
you
a
move.
name.
Yeah, you've spoken it. And it's also, all of this is like a way of releasing.
Yeah.
So then you move on. The moving on process is, you don't get stuck at acknowledgement and acceptance. You have to do something now.
And that's the scary piece, and it's totally terrifying, and I'm a procrastinator, but yeah, it's important.
But it's not a big, you know what? It doesn't have to be a gigantic, monumental moving on that takes some kind of dramatic a change. You're trying to get to a place where in this moment, you can say, I'm moving on by understanding that the thing that I can do right now to acknowledge what's gone on, and I've accepted it. The thing that I can do now is I can take a moment to rethink the steps that I did.
Yeah.
And see if I can tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's it. You just want to try to give your own self a little bit of a resolution or a little fix it to the current situation. Nothing big. Maybe it won't resolve the whole thing, but you've made an active step toward something.
And it's all it takes. It's like I can't tell you how it's what you said, it's that resolution. It's like you've made a choice, and it's almost like as soon as you make that choice, your mind, it resonates with your mind that there is a solution somewhere inbound. It kind of, for me, it relieves my anxiety, even if what I need to do is kind of big. I know that there's that awareness. Teresa's saying, I talk to myself every day. I did it out loud the other day in the store and someone heard me. Awesome.
Yeah,
right?
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Christy has a great comment too. I'd love to read it.
Sure.
Christy says, it's people, but it's also what people have done to us that make us a certain way. I've had things happen to me that has put up a wall when it comes to me, but at the same time, given me the strength to make a difference for others. It guided me to the military and sheriff office for 20 years. I think she's commenting on what our previous conversation. Christy, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think we're all kind of shaped by our lived experience, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can end up being what maybe creates self-doubt or making us proactive. But yeah, I would definitely agree there. Well, I love that 3-step process, and I've put it up on I'll put it in the comments, you guys, and you've seen it, of course, up on the screen. It's acknowledge, accept, and move on. I've actually written it down on a piece of paper, and I have it next to my computer because it's in those beautiful bite-sized pieces that all help. So the next time, Teresa, when I'm talking out loud to myself in the kitchen, I'll think of you. When my cat's staring at me, I talk a lot in the car too, but maybe I'll write it down on a Post-it and put it on my dashboard. That's a great solid, I think, 3-step process we can all use just to get us through those blocks, those moments. You touched on something earlier, Jetahn, that I'd love to talk about. We talked about a few days ago. I think a lot of what might spark self-doubt might not even be our own internal dialogue, but it could be the actions of others. Like for me in my bigness, I've had people react to me doing my show. Most people have been supportive, but there's always that one person who, and we all know what we're looking at when they say it. They might cut us down, or they might have just a snarky remark. Have you ever experienced anything like that, as maybe your unfoldment has happened? And because I know that can immediately spark self-doubt, especially if we know that person really well, maybe their family. Yeah. Have you experienced anything like that? Share with us.
Oh my. Yes. Yes. Well,
I only ask because I think we can all relate.
Okay. Well, I have grown children now, and my daughter was for the most part very supportive. But I guess about maybe 2 weeks ago, recent, she said, "Mom, I'm just worried. I see you doing all these things, and you sure do share a lot of information. Don't you worry about sharing stuff with people, your ideas and stuff?" And she said, "I don't know. I just don't want to see you get taken advantage of." And she just was on a emotional Waterfall, and she just kept going. And the next thing, that this is what really got me. She said, it just seems like you're doing all these things. She said, you just seem desperate. And my heart was like, ah! And then I didn't know how. It just really shocked me. And I was, tell you the truth, I was hurt. So I just told her, you know what, let me, I have to go real quick. Let me give you a call back later. And I had to get off the phone with her because I needed time to think. And that was really rough to hear that she felt that I sounded like I was desperate.
Yeah.
And that got me. That really got me.
I mean, as a daughter, you can feel that it's coming from how much she loves you.
Right.
And we're overprotective of our moms. I got to dial myself back every now and then and remind myself, right? It's like you were probably the same with yours. So, that's got to be tough. I think, I've had conversations with people where their husbands say that, or maybe their spouse, and that's got to be tough when our inner circle kind of says that. So it sounds like your 3-step process was to acknowledge and to get off the phone and then just take a minute.
Yeah.
So I guess advice to anyone listening, if you can relate with that, sometimes just removing yourself from the situation might be a good thing. Because I don't know how I would have handled that. I probably that could have really sat with me for a while, and that's tough, isn't it? Because that's really where self-doubt can fester, and I think that's really when productivity can come to a halt, right? On anything we're working on.
Well, I think that one of the things that, for me, this is show you again how mindfulness and meditation can really change how you handle situations. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have taken a moment to let me call you back. I would have been like, what do you mean? How are you why are you talking to your mom like that? How dare you? But when I did call her back, this was my response to her. And I almost said her name, but I'm not going to do it. This is another one of those things about being anonymous. She would be
like, the innocent.
So I said, I just wanted to call you back and talk with you. I said, let me tell you, there's a difference between desperation and dedication. I love what I do. I like to share the things that I share. And when you get to a certain point in your life, in your career, and enjoy what you're doing, dedication may appear to be so many things to so many other people. But I know what dedication is putting your heart and soul and loving that you're able to feel something for what you're doing, your life purpose. Yeah. Desperation is not in my vocabulary. So I'm not. Yeah. So she was like, oh, Mom, I'm sorry. I love you. And I said, no, I know you love me. That wasn't the point. But I wanted you to know, I just felt like I needed to get you back into what the reality of the situation is. And I said, so it's all love. It's all good. And we're all right. So,
good. Beautiful. Beautiful. So for those of us listening, having those tricky conversations with people we love, that's the reality. That's real. And who's to say that she isn't learning from the experience and taking that on board? Teresa, you've got another great comment. I'm just going to read it. You've got some good nuggets here. Teresa's saying, yes, the actions of others make a big impact. I was told for years that I had to disguise myself because I might strike people the wrong way. Ooh, this is good. I would love your insight on this, Jetahn. When I was younger, I didn't care what people thought about me being different. And I noticed that now as an adult, that's a lot harder. I question my ideas and how people will perceive them a lot more. So she's saying, that really strikes me. I was told for years that I had to disguise myself because I might strike people the wrong way. Oh, that makes me so mad. Yeah. So when you hear that, Jetahn, what?
Well, I think you were saying something to the effect of, you know, that old saying about hiding your light under the bushel or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't hide it. You let your light shine. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You let your light shine. And I had a quote that I made up a while back that said something to the effect of, if you wait for somebody to toot your own horn, you might not never hear it. So you need to toot your own horn. Yeah, you have to be true to yourself. And you know that when it's genuine and it's coming from a good place, you can't go wrong. There's no mistake. Don't hide yourself. Don't disguise yourself. If people see you in whatever reference you're making, you're unique, you're honest, you're real. And that's all that counts. That's all that counts. Don't let their judgment affect you. It's not important. What's important is how you feel, how you perceive yourself, and what you want to put out and give to the world. Because I believe in karma. And, you know, if you're coming from a good place, and like I said, you're unique and you're sincere, then it's all good. That's it.
I think what we're talking about is people react to others' bigness based on their own lived experience, and sometimes it can come out sloppy and clumsy. That's why even our closest comrades and family can sometimes sound the least supportive, because it's often something happening inside. People get, and it's not just jealousy. Sometimes it's like people get really uneasy when they see someone stepping outside of themselves because it's big. But yeah, it sounds like, so Teresa, your medicine, your homework is to toot your own horn, darn it. She's saying she says at the time, the education field was very vanilla and fear-based. So they didn't like anything different because they didn't know how to work around it. It's what drove me to start my own business. That's such a perfect segue. I was going to ask about that. So thanks, Teresa, for sharing that. It's so great to get insight from an educator, certainly. So it sounds like you were kind of innovative at a time when the industry sounds like they were very conservative, very fear-based. So I love that that's what drove you to start your own business. Perfect segue. Jetahn, what have you always been doing? Have you always been doing the activated warrior? What drove you to take the leap? And that's a question I ask in a lot of my shows, because I have a lot of folks who run their own business. Maybe they're thinking about changing careers. A lot of us are women. Can you speak to that? What ignited you to take the leap to start something new like Activated Warrior?
Well, you know, as they say, time waits for no woman in this case. Right. And I really wanted to follow my life passion, my purpose. I couldn't, I'll wait till next year to do it. Now's not the time. I don't have the saved up income to start a new business. There's all kind of reasons that were swirling around in my head. And I was like, no, you're going to start now and you're going to do X, Y, Z. I started out with, I call it my life cycle. And real quickly, it's like a business is like conception. My business idea was conceived, the miracle
of life.
Yeah. And then while it was baking, so to speak, I worked out all the ideas and nurtured it and worked things around and made my little business plan only for myself and worked out my structuring of what my mission statement was and all that kind of stuff. And then it was time. I gave birth. And the Activated Warrior, my little baby was here. And I had to nurture it and grow it, doing things like branding and marketing and, gather. And I was the queen of gather. I was a sponge. I was soaking up information and listening and doing my little, like we said, our little anonymous thing where I was looking and I would like a lot of stuff. I was liking all over the place. And that's when I got familiar with Facebook, because before then I didn't really do Facebook. I mean, that was something where I go on there and look at what the grandkids are doing who live in a different area. Yeah. It was a grandma stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
But now it was absorbed information, what things were, and how to do this. And anything that was free, I kind of took advantage of and said, let me take a look at that and see what they're talking about. And that's how you gather information. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think it's a good idea to give people feedback. So I would and sometimes I would go ahead and give a little comment. And so once I did the nurturing phase, then I became in my business what I call I was crawling, meaning that I got things set in place, and now I was reaching out, and I had my website, and I had my Google business, and I had my Facebook business page, so that's kind of like the process. That was the crawling stage. My toddler stage was, I would say my toddler stage was, okay, I got things set in place, but I need more business. And I'm getting my words, learning how to put them together type of stage. And I went through that for a while. And then I got to, I'm out of toddler. Now I'm a walking, but I still had, I hadn't been potty trained. So I was still a newbie. So I still had on my Pampers. Okay.
Right.
So, I made mistakes.
Sure.
Yes, I made mistakes, but I learned from them. And anytime I spent money and invested like in a client scheduling program, I never regret any money I spend on myself to advance myself.
Wait, can you repeat that? Can you just repeat that a few times? Because that's really important.
I never regret spending money or investing in myself, because it makes such a difference. It's important. I learned from it. Okay. Even if I don't get the full 100% of what I thought I was going to get from the program, I still got something. So it was well worth it. And I can say that that's true of most things I've spent any money on. I'm not crazy spender. So, when I spend money, I've done my you have to do your due diligence.
Oh, sure.
But I've never regretted anything. I've always learned from it and learned a lot, and I have my little resource binder that it's full. I keep resource binders. So when get things, I have them. You don't just get stuff and just set it to the side. You need to stay organized.
Well, yeah. No.
We try. This was my latest thing. When I get a good reference, I put it in a binder and I label the binder. That way I can reach over my little library over here on my desk and say, oh, that's in marketing. And that binder is full of marketing material. I keep it separate. I know where it is. If I have a question in my mind, I go back to these materials. So, and so that's the walking stage. And where I'm at now is I'm walking, I'm speaking good. Now I'm just growing that baby. That baby's growing. Baby. That's it. I'm growing that baby, my baby. And, people have said that. I'm sure everybody's heard that for years. My business is my baby. And I never really understood that, other than it's taking time away from your family kind of thing. That's really what I thought in my mind until I became a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. And then I was like, I see now, because this baby is it's a cycle. It's a birth cycle. It's a life cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a life cycle, and you don't know what all it consists of until you actually do it yourself. You can hear somebody talk about it, and you're like, yeah. Oh, you had to do that. Oh, okay, well, but until you do it actually yourself, you know how intense and important each step in the evolution of your business is. Yes. And it's important. You have to love yourself too. You love that baby. You love that business, and it's only going to grow and become prosperous and strong if you stay strong. And you give it the attention it needs, but don't let it overwhelm who you are and the other facets of your life. You're a total human being.
Because you're the mom.
You're a total human being.
You're the mom at the end of the day, right? Going back to
that's right.
Teresa's saying that's a hard one. I have invested a few times in things that turned out not to be what they claimed. Teresa, me too. Me too, girl. I still invest in myself, but I am much more cautious about who you give your money to. Absolutely. That's part of what you were saying earlier, Jetahn, about it's the learning process. Teresa, yes. Yeah, especially when they cost a lot. Yeah. That makes the lesson harder. There are a few transactions I've done where I've accepted it. Wait, I've acknowledged it, I've accepted it, and I've moved on. But yeah, because that can create self-doubt too. You're like, what, and the worst feeling is when you feel like you've thrown money away. But yeah,
you've
Teresa,
been duped.
Yeah, that's the worst. And it's sort of like,
yeah.
But we've learned you're so much more smarter for it, Teresa. And you were just saying you still invest in yourself, which I think is the most important thing. But you are much more cautious about who you give your money to. Yes.
Yeah.
Jetahn, what advice would you give to someone, just something short and sweet? What advice would you give to someone right now thinking of taking a leap or making a change?
Take your time. Write down on paper what your goal is. Is your goal to just do this as a part-time venture that you really love to do, or you want to make it a full-time, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, I'm going to go for it. So you make your decision on what you really, whether it's a need or just a desire. I need to do this, or I desire to become a millionaire. Well, is that attainable right now? No, not right now, unless you win the lotto. But a need is, I need to be more financially secure or more financially stable. That's a need. That's something you want. Right now is important. So yeah, it's another thing about taking steps. It doesn't need to be gigantic ones, but you need to first be clear on what you want. You can't be willy-nilly about it. If you don't have a focus, then you'll get frustrated and just give up. You'll never follow through. So that's the first thing I would do, is to get focused on what you really want.
That's really beautiful advice that I wish that I'd had when I first started. Because I think, we start our ventures, we make changes based on a whole variety of factors. For me, it was burnout was a key driver. Change. I had to change. And then it kind of manifested in, well, what do I do now? And then it was also fueled by wanting something deeper. So I just jotted down a few of those notes for folks tuning in. Take your time, write it down, be clear. And it sounds like another piece of advice is focus. And I like that because sometimes we feel like to make the leap, it has to be this gigantic change. Sometimes it can just be as simple as just write down your goal. Just write it down. There's no risk in that. Maybe you sit with that goal for a while. It's sort of like taking your leap can be as big as that, I guess it sounds like.
Right.
And
focus is really important.
Focus.
I mean, out of everything, the focus is that narrows it down. If you can just focus in, that's going to be so important. Yeah. And like you said, I like what you said about just sit with that for however long you need. Everybody's so individual. I like that. Yeah. Sit with that. I like that one.
I'm sitting with some stuff right now. Just sitting with some big pieces.
Okay.
Big being the word. Because my thing is, raise your hand if you can relate, is I don't know, that big word, control, and try to lasso the sun, like, well, I need to do it, versus why don't I just sit with it? So that's what I'm sitting with right now. We're coming close to the top of the hour, and I just have a few more questions. The most important, where can people find out more about the Activated Warrior? I know you've got a couple of promotions going on. If there are folks that want to work with you, what's the best place for them to get in touch?
That would be my website at https or www.theactivatedwarrior.com. Cool. And I'm offering a free introductory explosive first session. I mean, my whole point of the free introductory session is to have you literally go away with something that you can start that day on your own. Even if you choose not to work with me, you're going to have something tangible to go away with.
Thank you.
Because I want, I'm just like everybody else. When I do something, I want to see, give me something. I know it's free, I know it's free, but give me something, show me something, and that's okay. I mean, we're human beings. That's human nature. So if you go to my website, If you go to my website, you just go to the contact page, and you can either contact me by email, which is there, or phone, and I'll call you back and we'll set up a first session for you, and either by phone or via online virtual like we're doing right now. And yeah.
Great. Well, I've put the website up on the ticker, and I've also put it in the comments. For those of you listening on the podcast, I'll also put it in the descriptor of the comments. But of course, you can always reach back through me. If you've got a question for Jetahn after this airs, you can always reach out to me, and I will always ask the questions. I've done that in the past. Or you can always reach out to her directly. But if anything, go to theactivatedwarrior.com to check her out. I've checked her out as well. I think you've dropped a lot of knowledge on us today, a lot that
Thank you.
I think I'm going to sit with.
Good.
A lot of knowledge that I think can really help. This whole thing with self-doubt is tricky, and sometimes my go-to is to just try to navigate it alone. But your insight's really helpful because it can just lift me out of those moments where, you know, you could spiral, or you could just kind of really come down hard on yourself. And it sounds like with putting that 3-step practice into place, just remembering it, like I said, I've written it down, that sometimes that can be all we need to just, like you say, activate our warrior, just kind of reignite our confidence, kind of, it sounds like. So which is helpful. Jetahn, we are closing in on the hour. Any closing thoughts before I let you go?
Well, you know, I always like to say empowering your inner warrior to achieve your goals. That's really my mantra. That's what my life purpose is. I want to get that activated warrior that's inside everybody motivated. And a quick thing about mindfulness, I think we spoke about this before. Mindfulness is just being in that moment, sensing what you're feeling, smelling, hearing, tasting, like your mouth is dry or you just drink a soda. That's what mindfulness is. Very quick. It's not like meditation, but to me, it's kind of similar and something that everybody can practice every day. It's just feeling all your 5 senses in that moment, because in that moment when you're feeling those senses, you are right there and you're with you. You're one-on-one. And when you take that moment to think about yourself and in that place, in that moment, in that space, that's how you get to relax and really get in tune with yourself and the universe and bring that energy back to you and the source. That's important.
That's important because that's everything, right? I mean, it's like no matter what you're working on. We've talked a lot about business, but it's like relationship, community, business, being mindful. It takes practice. I struggle with it, but those are beautiful words to close on. So everyone, if you haven't had a chance, jump over to activatedwarrior.com. Check out the comments in here. I put that 3-step process right in the comments if you guys are want to just jot those down. I think that's a great takeaway for today. If anything, mindfulness, just try to be more present. Listen to yourself, it sounds like. Because self-doubt is tricky. And but it sounds like we are the captains of our own ship, and we have the secrets. Right. We have the secrets in us. Jetahn, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. You've dropped some great knowledge today. I'd like to have you back in the future if that's all right. I think you can kind of keep us in check.
I'd love to. I appreciate you having me and enjoyed being on the show. Thank you for having me. Love to come back anytime.
All right. Well, give us a wave. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you,
so
folks.
much, Jetahn.
Namaste.
Yep.
Namaste.
Have a great day. Take care.
You too. Take care, everyone. Bye.
She's so great. Such good energy. I promise to have her back on, you guys. Jetahn's awesome. She's a local here. We're going to grab coffee. It's going to be amazing. So hopefully, you guys, that will help you kind of propel yourself. Self-doubt is so real, especially on days like today. If you're looking at your finances, if you're frustrated, maybe if you've got some taxes you're pushing yourself through, or just maybe you're looking at the rest of the year. Self-doubt might be creeping in. Listen, it's all good. I'm right there with you. It's very real. No matter whether you run a business, you're in a relationship, you're bettering your community, maybe you're starting something new. I think self-doubt can really creep in. So you've been watching How to Activate Your Inner Warrior episode. So thanks for joining. Quickly to close, thanks for listening on the podcast. The subscribing rate is going up massively, so thank you for that. It tells me that you like to listen to me on the go as well as watch me. So again, if you like to tune in live, I'm here on Facebook at 8 a.m. every Tuesday Pacific time. I'm also on YouTube for the replay, and then of course on the podcast for the audio. So you've been watching Jessica Payne Live. I'm your host, Jessica Payne. Thank you, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. And again, if you have questions about my course, which I mentioned only briefly today, but I get questions every week, Live Show Mastery. If you want to learn how to create a show just like this one, that is live, that is streamed on social media, that is pushed to other channels, that has a podcast, I'm teaching it right now in my course, Live Show Mastery. If that tickles your fancy, if you're on Facebook, message me the words Live Show Mastery, or just simply visit my website, which is jessicapayne.us for more information. And you can go live tonight. You can start your show right now. It's that easy. You guys take care. I'll see you soon next week. Happy live streaming and have a great week. Bye, y'all.